Hello there, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Samantha, and I'm in client services here at the Retirement Group. I moderate these weekly question and answer sessions. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by our advisor, Patrick Ray, and he's going to be speaking to Boeing employees about how you can safeguard your pension even amidst rising healthcare costs and inflation. He's going to be answering some of the most frequently asked questions we've received lately. Before I bring Patrick out, however, I would very quickly like to remind you that although we work very closely with both active and retired members of Boeing, the Retirement Group is not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by Boeing. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here, so please do keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's bring on our speaker today, Patrick Ray. Hi, Patrick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Sam. We appreciate that. And welcome, everyone. In the event that you haven't joined us before, we hope that you find some value in spending some time with us today. And what I'm going to talk about specifically this afternoon is a reference to what Sam was talking about, which is helping with maximization on a strategy that often goes overlooked and maybe underutilized with respect to your overall retirement and financial planning needs. So if you're first joining us, welcome. And the Retirement Group has been around for over 30 years, and we help Fortune 500 company employees transition into a successful retirement. And one of the many tools that we utilize in an effort to do that is this webinar platform, where we come up with recent topics of information and concerns that we get from our clients and prospects in an effort to bring you the most up-to-date and relevant information so that when you're trying to transition into a successful retirement, you do that with the most educated framework built to help you with this decision, which we know is one of the most important, certainly from a financial perspective, one of the most important decisions that you'll ever have to make. And the Retirement Group, we have a ton of experience in dealing with these matters with respect to helping you with your 401k plans and your pension plans. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the healthcare side. We have offices all across the country, so I'm confident we can find someone that's very close to you in the area that you may live. And our representation of being an independent financial planning and advisory firm comes with an unbiased opinion and a view of what you need to know to help you with some of these things. And so today we're going to cover some of these popular questions and certainly some of the most relevant things that we've been hearing in the most recent past. And you might want to know in the end what might use as the biggest value for you, which is something we can bring to the table. And it's something we refer to as a cash flow analysis. And it's a way to stress test your overall financial planning and retirement planning needs. And I'll talk to you about that before we let you go this afternoon. But one of the questions we have been getting on a very regular basis is what the alternatives are if you leave prior to qualifying for retirement health care, or more importantly, before you retire and get qualified for Medicare, which happens at age 65. So these are two separate questions, right? So first of all, of the alternatives with respect to what you have available to you and you're not retirement eligible at your particular company who doesn't offer retirement health care, is going to put you in a position to rely on the exchange, probably in most cases. And of course, these differ from state to state and from region to region. And so the options and the benefits, and in addition, the costs are all completely different from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast, right? So it's impossible for us to tell you this is what you should expect if you live here, because all of your, of course, services and the options that are relevant and available to you are different. And so the exchange is a very popular way for you to bridge the gap between maybe your retirement and Medicare, or leaving one company and going to work for another company. And as well as if you have a spouse, of course, we want to make sure that we're addressing your spouse's options to confirm that that may be the best route for you to add or be added to your spouse's plan, even though maybe you were the primary breadwinner or primary producer of the coverage that you had for your family prior to leaving the payroll from the company that you work for. So this is a very popular question. And of course, the alternatives in the end depend on where you are at, what the coverage is that you're looking for, if you're going to cover just yourself and or your spouse, or if we're going to include children or younger children in that case. And then what other options are available are usually different from place to place and from case to case. And so certainly this is not only a popular question, but a very important one, especially if you don't have any other options other than maybe the exchange or a spouse's plan in an effort to help you with your overall coverage in the big picture of things. So another popular question that comes up often is if we have an example or an understanding of a 62-year-old under the Blue Cross plan. So this is Blue Cross is a very popular option with many of our folks. And one of the questions that often comes up if this is an option for them is if Cobra is more expensive or cheaper than the state exchange plans. And so this is always typically part of our discussion as to what the best option is for you to lean on, especially when in this case, this person, for example, is under the age of 65. And so we're looking for what is the best and most productive option. Sometimes that's not the cheapest thing to do, but the defined answer is it absolutely depends on your region, where you live, who you're covering, and what options that you're looking for to be covered. So this represents a long list of options with respect to different costs and different variations of these that range anywhere from a few $100s a month to up to a few $1,000s a month, depending on how detailed and what your options are as far as the coverage is concerned. So there's no way to answer this particular question on if one is less expensive than the other. And also something to confirm or consider for sure is maybe the option is not best for the cheapest plan, but the one that produces the best overall alternative for you. So you might find that this option will end up being a little bit more expensive for you and your family than you otherwise would have planned or would have budgeted for. And oftentimes we run in our cash flow analysis, which I talked a little bit about, which is the stress test of your overall financial planning and retirement planning needs. One of the most important questions is what am I going to do for this expenditure that I've had or that I'm going to have for, say, in this case, 3 years when I'm leaving the payroll at 62 and not yet eligible for Medicare until you're 65. And so you might think about running a separate line item, which we can do in the plan to show you the added expense over and above your normal living expenses to kind of give you a stress test of what it would be maybe on the expensive end. Let's say you were budgeting $1,000 a month and you were unsure what that was going to do to your overall net worth and your financial planning needs long down the road. That's what the benefit of that cash flow analysis is for. Well, one of the benefits anyway of the cash flow analysis, which is to kind of stress test where you're at. If you were spending 1,000, maybe you had to spend 12 to 1,300, for example, for a 2 or 3 year window of time. And you might want to know what that looks like when you're in your 70s and 80s and 90s, for example, from a cash flow perspective. So we can run those different scenarios for you and all of the different options which we're able to help you with as far as trying to find out the best solution for you. And on top of that, what it might cost so that you can bring that to the forefront and figure out what it is that you're going to have as an expenditure. One of the most popular questions that we've been getting of late is what I was referring to at the beginning of maybe one of the most underutilized forms of planning from a retirement perspective, which is using an HSA. So for those of you who don't know what that is, an HSA is a savings account, the health savings account specifically, which is what HSA stands for. And it allows you to save money on a tax-deferred basis that has no spending timeline. So in other words, some of you may be familiar with the FSA accounts, which were flexible spending accounts, and you might be familiar with those because those were required to be used, or the funds inside of an FSA were required to be used within that calendar year. So if you made a deposit and you were using a flexible spending account in 2023, then by the end of 2023, you would have had to zero out that balance. You weren't able to carry forward any unused amounts. Well, hopefully you're not in a health position where you're required to use a whole bunch of your retirement savings or your healthcare savings accounts for expenditures, but that's of course what the money is for, right? So under under the health savings account, it's a great option because it allows us to carry monies that we're potentially not using and ultimately potentially use them for retirement benefits, which would help you supplement your retirement income down the road. So in this question, as a 60-year-old employee with a substantial 401k balance, how can I leverage the new IRS increase in my HSA contributions to enhance my retirement savings and address the healthcare expenses after I retire? So this is a great question. And the reality is, of course, because everyone's situation is different, this might enhance the reason why you want to do a cash flow projection and make sure that you're familiar with your cash flow needs and what you're going to budget for specific healthcare expenditures. But this question comes up where we only have so much money to allocate while you're an employee and you're currently contributing to your 401k, right? So the biggest difference, of course, between these two buckets is it's possible that you're getting a match on your 401k contributions, where we know you're not getting a match on your HSA contributions. So if that's the first and foremost thing we want to address, then clearly we would probably want to have the 401k supersede any HSA deposits until we've at least maximized the free money that's coming from your company, right? But if we assume that you have a substantial amount of money, that's probably making the assumption that you're making a relatively heavy contribution to your 401k, which is probably more than you're getting a match if you get one. And therefore then equates to, if you only have X amount of dollars per month to allocate to this particular scenario, which one is it better to be utilized for, the 401k or the HSA account? And so these HSA limits, they increase, or they're indexed by inflation typically every year. So the amount that you're eligible to utilize or put into these plans dictates on if you're using a single life version or a family plan. But basically, these amounts allow you to put money into a tax deferred investment vehicle that can grow tax deferred for your future use. And so if you fast forward and you don't have a need for the healthcare expenses because you live a relatively healthy life, thank goodness. And of course, that's what we hope for. Then that would lead you to have monies that are eligible to be removed from your HSA account to help you support future income from a retirement planning perspective. The only catch is that if you're using your HSA contribution amounts from your HSA plan for things that are not related to healthcare expenses, then you're going to pay income tax on those distributions. So that might be a deal breaker in some cases, but frankly, if you have enough money or what you feel like is a substantial amount of money in your retirement plan, specifically your 401k, and you're getting the match from your employer on top of that, then I think adding to an HSA is a wonderful way for you to add some additional flexibility to your overall retirement plans. And to be fair, the reality is the more options that you have with 401k balances and pension amounts and maybe after-tax money that you would have otherwise saved, or any money that you have in the Roth 401k or any Roth IRA contributions that you would have otherwise made over the years, plus something like an HSA account. It just allows you to have way more options from a pool of money that you can choose and pick from to manage all kinds of things. You can manage risk with that. You can manage income, of course, with that. You can manage your tax liabilities with that. And there's a lot of benefits to that. And of course, we can tie that basically into your overall cash flow needs when it comes down to it. So this is a great question and something that comes up very, very frequently. Another question, which is, can I use my HSA savings account as a retirement savings vehicle similar to my 401k or IRA? And of course, I talked a little bit about that in the previous slide or the previous question, which is the answer is yes, you absolutely can do that. There's some caveats if you're not 59 and a half, so you want to be careful about that. Of course, if we're going to rely on monies and you're leaving or retiring from your payroll in your early to mid 50s, for example, there could be some caveats or issues that you want to be cognizant of with respect to that. But again, your 401k is possibly giving you a match where your HSA deposits are not. So we want to make sure that we're getting 100% match from or 100% of the free money that you're eligible to gain from your employer. And so we don't want to give that up in pretty much any capacity. But other than that, then obviously then we can start to consider additional funds that might better be earmarked or could be earmarked to an HSA account, which kind of solves a couple of issues for potential healthcare needs that you might have at some point in time in the future. And then ultimately, if you don't have those because you live a relatively and have a relatively healthy life, then of course those benefits and funds can be used where you'll just pay income tax on those, assuming that you're past 59 and a half, to have for retirement benefits, of course, which is a great option. So in our opinion, and specifically when we deal with potential people who are trying to concern themselves with retirement, we want to advocate that both could be a play or play a huge role in your overall retirement savings. And so those are the 4 questions that we are being asked on the most recent platforms from taking calls from people. And so we wanted to cover those today in our question and answer session for sure. But look, if you have other questions, and oftentimes this comes up in conversations where we talk about the healthcare stuff, but it leads into how do I get access to my retirement plan monies if I'm not 59 and a half, as an example. So we have a slew of webinars that you can watch that have information related to that, as well as your welcome to call the office and schedule some time to visit with one of the advisors on the group. And you can do that by one of a couple of ways. You can call us at 800-900-5867. That's our 800 number in our office in California. And then you can also take a picture of this QR code on the screen, and it'll bring you to a calendar where you can schedule a 15 to 20-minute call with someone to at least get the ball started as to getting your question answered or questions answered, and then maybe determine if it's beneficial to have an additional conversation or meeting going forward to collect some data so that we can produce the cash flow analysis, which is a complimentary service that we offer. So you're welcome to do that as well. And then in the end, our job here as a fiduciary responsibility is to do the very best for you, right, in all manners, which means advising you while you're still on the payroll and leading into transitioning into a successful retirement, on to and after when you become a client of ours, where we have where we're getting compensated to produce you advice and recommendations going forward. And so every case is different, every scenario is different, and we want to treat them as independently as they come to us. And so our number one priority and goal is to be in a position to put you in a position to be as comfortable as possible, because one of the most stressful things that you'll ever have to go through is retirement. And unfortunately, the stress of the financial end of that usually doesn't go away for folks. And so we want to do our best to mitigate that at all levels. And the more that we chat with you and the more planning you do ahead of time, the better off that you're going to be. So with that, I'll leave you with the afternoon. I certainly hope that you found some value in spending some time with us today, and you learned a little bit through our discussions. And we will look forward to catching up with you at some time in the future. So enjoy yourselves and have a great day. Take care.